Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we give you the tea and everything you could ever want related to reality TV. And I didn't screw up that intro. Hi, my name is Jack. I am the resident game designer of the panel, and I am not throwing this podcast. And you can't say otherwise. I'm just not doing it, regardless of what you think. But I mean, David, if you could prove that I'm doing it, I don't know. Anyway, I got some coffee as I killed that bit. Go right ahead, David.
Well, I'm David Healy, and I am excited to talk about some more Australian Survivor. I missed last weekend, so I'm here, and I have lots of thoughts about this crazy cast.
I don't know what it is
Water.
about this season, but this cast is insane in every single aspect, and it doesn't make any sense every single time. But I can't lie that it is incredibly entertaining, and this episode is no different. So, before we get started, we just have a couple quick things to go through. So, first, if you enjoy reality TV from across the globe, including Survivor US and Australia, Deal or No Deal Island, The Traders, if you're a little bit behind, anything like that, you can feel free to subscribe, hit the bell, and like this video. The buttons did just light up rainbow, and I mean, you're not going to ignore the rainbow signs, are you? We also have 3 other lovely channels if you love drag content from across the world: WWE or the Eurovision Song Contest, which is currently going crazy with song releases nearly every single day. Feel free to follow our other 3 channels in the banner. In addition, if you would like some of our lovely merch, you can go to alanagcreations.etsy.com to get cup merch, lovely cups, and improved ones. Bunch of clothing, anything you could ever want to relax while enjoying some reality TV. In addition, we do have a Patreon now where we will be going a bit more in depth with the panelists from across the entire Cup podcast spectrum, including potential season 50 drafts, season 50 fantasy casts, what we might be looking for in drag content, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we are actively working on. You do not want to miss it. And if I have forgotten anything, can you tell we are a little bit scrambled today?
It happens. We're just like the Brains Tribe usually is. The OG Brains Tribe, that is.
Yes. But with that, we are going to get right into our lovely recap of this current episode. So, we go back first, post the insanity of the last Brains Tribal. Miles perfectly playing an idol to keep himself safe, and Max walking out with an idol in his pocket, thinking he was in complete control of the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
it was a beautiful sight to see.
David, you weren't here last week, so tell me what you thought about that whole situation, Max's crazy diatribes, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun. It's always enjoyable to watch somebody just kind of feel really confident about their plan, and then it just kind of backfiring completely in their face. I did like Max. I thought he was an interesting character, but it was good to see him get his comeuppance.
I think once Kent burned Max's hat, all of Ken's energy just went into Max, and that just continued throughout. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it was just the most entertaining stuff of Max doing things that made no sense and no one trusted him. And he basically went out to his own, trying to form new alliances that simply didn't exist.
Very true. I do see from his perspective how Miles was the villain for him, because Miles did start coming for him like when Max was not coming for Miles. So I get that. And yeah, like just even watching this episode, I'm like, when they're calling him a rat, maybe I see it a little bit. Maybe I see him scurrying around and just willing to throw anybody under the bus. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you play Survivor.
Yeah. So we do go back to Miles basically realizing, hey, so I am alive, but I have no one. The Brawn don't currently trust him at all, and he hasn't got that connection. And the Brains don't trust him at all because, I mean, the Brains were the ones who threw their votes on him, and he was completely left out. So I don't really blame him for kind of being like, I don't know what to do.
Mm.
The one thing I will give him credit for, though, is that he is a correct read on the entire dynamic of the tribe. It's not a hard read to get, but still, that's something.
Mm-hmm. Was he even right about PD being a vote on him too?
Yes.
Wow,
he was specifically right about PD voting him, which is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have made more sense for Kate to do it. Because I'm sure that someone told Kate that Miles threw out her name, but I mean, it worked out pretty well that Miles at least got it.
Mm-hmm. I did find the conversation he was having with Jesse at the beginning a little weird, because it felt like Jesse was being a little bit passive aggressive or condescending to him, and I'm like, why? Because Miles was very happy with his big idol move, and he's like, was it a big idol move? And he's like, well, it was a correct idol move. I'm like, just let him have it, Jesse. Like, chill out.
I honestly think it's like 7 days of Miles basically talking Jesse's ear off, and he's like, yeah, a big move, uh-huh.
Wash these, dish boy. What? Yeah, I think Jesse's in his villain era. It seems like these guys, one at a time, they're like, yeah, I'm just chill, I'm nice, I'm fun. Wait, I think I'm going to be a villain today. I woke up and I'm now a villain, and maybe Jesse's there for some reason.
And that's basically all the content we really get from Jesse, or basically any Brawn who isn't like two of them throughout this whole round, because surprise, Brawn are the OG Brawn, like half of them are completely under-edited throughout this entire game. And they'll likely just be fodder later on, unfortunately. But we do look back over then, and I'm going to make sure I have at least my numbers right here. We then swap over to the new Brains tribe. And we kind of start with AJ once again just showing that he can't be trusted by going, hey, Noonan, let me just pull you aside really quick. I want to take you to merge. This whole hostage plan has been nothing this entire time. It's actually because I want to protect you. And that's why I'm doing this. Which, interesting switch up. Very interesting switch up.
Yeah. I actually think AJ has a lot of good ideas. He just doesn't handle them the best way. Like the whole hostage idea is a great idea, but that is not something you say out loud. You don't tell people that they're hostages. You don't tell the other tribe that they're hostages too. You just make it apparent. Lose a challenge, and then they'll see the writing on the wall. You have to trust other people to play a little bit more optimally, and he does not do that. He underestimates pretty much every person. He thinks they're all dumb. He thinks he can get away with a lot more that he can, and it keeps blowing up in his face. So I don't know when he's going to learn. Like, you got to control yourself a little bit more.
He's basically playing the Dora the Explorer style approach where he's publicly announcing every single move, and the only reason he's survived so far is because no one has stepped in and been like, no, we're not doing that. Which isn't, I mean, most people they kind of just want to keep the numbers as it is, so I don't blame him, especially because it's just going to keep making AJ's target bigger and bigger so that when they jump to a merge situation, it doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
we do see him have conversations with Noonan. We see him have a conversation with Kristen, trying to woo her and get her on her side, and then Paulie joins, trying to get him on their side too. So he's really trying to woo all of these old Brawn, but nobody's really buying it. Even when he walks away, Kristen and Paulie, they're both like, nah, I don't trust this guy.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very obvious that he's basically just burned every single trusting relationship on that tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But we do note that AJ specifically throws out to Noonan the possibility of either Polly, which, okay, another easy name, and Laura, which interesting ammunition to give Noonan in that situation.
Yep.
Logan, thank you.
Yes, Logan. I know. It was
thought,
Logan because of
had
Laura.
My notes were wrong, but yeah, no. She throws out. AJ throws out Logan to Noonan, which. Why are we giving that kind of ammunition? It once again, I think it just falls to AJ not knowing how to kind of rein it in and shut up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think part of it might be because he knows Kristen has an idol. So if she's going to play that for somebody, maybe he wants to make sure that he's not going to be a victim of that in any way. So I do think it's actually smart to try to win Kristen over more than just about anybody from that side. So that was smart. But once again, like, let her say the names first, which I think she was the first one to mention Paulie's name.
Yeah. Which I don't think Noonan would have ever mentioned any brain, because I think Noonan knows that if she says a brain's name, AJ literally just walks over and is like, hey, just so you know, Noonan threw out your name. Because, I mean, maybe in the moment, it would be a strategic move to be like, let me try and rein the brains that I've pissed off back into me. Mm. But I could also see it as just held ammunition.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do see later on Kristen and Paulie talking about that they want to work together, and Paulie hints that, yeah, you can do something with your idol and maybe help out our side. But then later on, Kristen's like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to play my idol for Noonan or Paulie. They weren't with me on the old tribe, so why am I going to help them out now?
And of course, this is because Paulie casually has an idol in his back pocket that no one knows about. And I mean, if Paulie can have control of 2 idols, that's significantly better than having control of 1. True. Especially if it's one you don't have immediate power over.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting to lose track of who has idols. Like, I completely forgot that AJ had an idol. Completely forgot.
I mean, granted, they threw out like 5 different idols we had 5 idols running in this game at the end of the last episode. And thankfully, by the end of this episode, we have a typical 2, which makes it way easier. But yeah, it's It's so much. I mean, the only reason I remembered that Max had won over AJ is because Max would not shut up about it. But I think AJ's, in my mind, kind of almost got lost in the shuffle. But with that, we move to the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a classic challenge in terms of everything. It is simply both people have a idol on a stick. Your job is to knock your opponent's idol off. With the catch now of you also have an idol for your opponent behind them that you also need to knock down. And I really like this.
Yeah.
It actually allows for a lot of diverse strategy within this challenge and doesn't make it simply like a full brawn fest of who has the longest arm and can hit things. You actually have different strategies that you can work with.
Yeah, I think there is an optimal strategy, which I don't think anybody fully went for what I think was the best strategy. I think one person comes close to it. But before we get to the challenge, I do want to bring up the fact that
Yes.
when everybody comes in, they see that Max is gone, and AJ decides to speak very openly. Like, he thought that one of the bigger Brawn guys would be gone, and he just says that out loud. And we might find out later on that he actually really did think that this might happen. And I have more thoughts on that when we get to it. But I was like, oh, that's really bold of you to just say that out loud.
Yeah. But I do think, once again, this is just AJ talking too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for a moment, stay quiet. You don't need to constantly talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's coming from me as someone who constantly talks. So, really quick, let's just run through the matchups of this reward challenge because, I mean, all 5 rounds pretty much use different strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the first round was Ben versus Kaylin, which I think that was one of the closer ones. It definitely went on for a while, but and then when they run for their things at the very end, it was super close, and we had to get like a last minute call on who won, but it was Kaylin who won for Brawn. But then the second matchup, and this is where I think somebody did the closest to the optimal strategy. This one was Kristen versus Zara. And Kristen starts running, and she like pretty much immediately loses the thing on her pole. I say do that. Don't worry about the one on your pole. Drop it, sprint for the person, knock off theirs, then go behind them. Because if you're fast enough, if they're too busy concentrating on going slow and moving with it, and you're able to knock it off, then you can easily get to the one behind them. So it's okay to sacrifice your first one to have the speed. So I think that was the best strategy, and I wanted to see other people use that deliberately moving forward. But yes, Kristen got a second point for Brawn.
I do think that combined with, instead of just essentially dropping the idol to the side, throwing it as high as you can, combining those two, in my mind, is the perfect strategy because, one, in a worst case scenario, you have your second idol significantly higher than the first person, and it just hits the ground later. But then, just take them completely by surprise, run at them, swipe their thing as fast as you can, and then just dart for their idol. I do think that's just the smartest play possible.
Yeah. The only issue with the throwing of the idol is if your opponent is smart and they say you throw up yours, they're going to do theirs right afterwards. And I was surprised that we didn't really see other people do that. Like if somebody's throwing up their idol, then guess what? I'm doing it too right after you. So yeah, that'd be a tricky element there for sure.
Yeah.
Our next pair we have is PD versus Pauly. I don't really remember anything eventful from this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that happens is that they both knock off their edge idols first and just have the hand idols.
That's right.
And then PD throws it up in the air and knocks Polly's down first, allowing him to steal the point, which I thought was also just really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it's another way of just taking your opponent by surprise by risking a point in the challenge, which, considering they were down 2-0, and if PD screwed that up, it was over, really ballsy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We also learned that they're both named Paul, which I did not know PD was a Paul. Paulie was like, oh, it's a battle of the Pauls. Then our next matchup is Jesse versus AJ. Don't remember anything special about this one either.
I honestly don't remember anything about this one because I think this one just ended up being another like traditional hold it out, both tap, and then AJ just manages to knock.
Actually, I think Jesse threw his too. I think it was kind of similar to the previous one.
You could be right.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, is this the new strategy that the Brains is going to do for all of theirs? Because I think it was 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. But yes, Jesse does get a second point for Brains. Then we have our final matchup, and it is Karen versus Morgan. And Karen's like, why'd you have to put an Olympian? And Morgan's like, I just run. You're a football player.
But I think Karen unfortunately really underestimated herself, and it doesn't go well. It is very much Morgan dominating, sending Brains to a lovely feast at the Survivor Pub.
Yep.
Which, I mean, cute reward. It's essentially just the Survivor bar version from the US because different cultures.
Chicken parma.
Chicken parm.
And beer.
And darts and
hot chips.
And hot chips, yes. Now, at the pub in particular, it is so obvious that the OG Brawn on Brains do not have any interest in talking game with basically any Brains. It is dead silent. They're just going and playing darts. Like, they know what they're going to do. This is easy pickings for them. They just need to decide which of the 3 names they're going to do. And
Zara tried, though. She's like, hey, guys, can you tell us who from the original Brawn you're close to? And I think it was Kate was like, actually, we'd rather hear who you were close to. And Miles is like, I'll tell you. Miles just spills his guts very blatantly, very obviously. And the whole time, Laura and Zara are just so annoyed. Like, there's a shot of Zara going.
Now, in my mind, I think Miles is doing the right thing, honestly.
He's doing the right thing for himself, yes.
He's doing the right thing for himself. He knows that he's at the bottom of this tribe, and the only way that he doesn't immediately go home is A, find an idol, or B, convince the Brawn that Miles isn't worth voting out via being an information source, and instead looking at Laura or Zara as the vote. And I mean, what other move does he have in that moment besides, oh, you want information? Here you go. Here is literally everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it from both sides. Like, I also get the 2 women being annoyed by it because obviously, yeah, it puts them in more jeopardy. So Yeah, but I think Miles brought up some good points because they do confront him and they're like, "Why are you doing this? You cannot. This is going to hurt all of our games. We have to stick together. We have to keep information close to us." And Miles is like, "Yeah, you're saying that, but you all pretty much voted for me and didn't tell me. So why should I trust you?"
And he's not wrong. He literally looks at
Mhm.
them and goes, "Y'all wanted me to go home. Go away. I don't care."
Right.
So, once again, he's just doing the right thing.
Hmm.
And I mean, the man is smart. He just needs to get to merge, and then either he just fully jumps back with his old brains, which, my opinion, horrible idea. I mean, not with AJ specifically, if he tries to jump back with that ship, horrible idea.
Yeah, I just think the
But the other brains, maybe.
Brawn are way too close. Like you can tell the whole tribe, both sides, they're all looking out for each other. So like I don't know if you can just try to like ingratiate yourself into that dynamic, but you're probably going to be in the bottom. So yeah, I think probably the best way to go about it is try to be stealth and divide and conquer, but still work with the original brain as much as possible.
Mhm. You just need to lay low, make
Mhm.
one good advantage or idle play, and then when you finally have control again, that's when you try and throw stuff. And yeah, try to win immunity as well. Just
Mhm.
keep your options as open as possible.
Yep. Speaking of immunity,
Speaking of immunity, honestly, this is an interesting one. Essentially, get a bunch of ladder pieces together, hook them together, get someone up to a basketball perch, get a hoop set up, land 3 targets. Simple, nice and easy. One person can single-handedly decide if you win or lose.
mhm,
And we saw the last part there. One
yep,
person can single-handedly decide if you win or lose, being the key part.
yeah, we might as
Because
well just skip to that part because that's what matters, right?
that is what matters. We do see AJ specifically, like when strategizing with his team, going, I really should be the one up throwing the balls, and like I really need to be in control here. It just makes sense. I'm really good at this. We know his motives. We absolutely know his motives.
Hmm.
And yeah, we go through the challenge. Technically the brains are like a little behind on getting the actual hoop set up, but very quickly, 2 balls in for each tribe. And then neither AJ nor Ben can make the third basket.
Yeah,
They're really struggling.
yeah. This was a weird way to throw. Like, why did they try so hard at first and do so well at first, and then later on they just decide to start throwing the challenge? I don't know. Um, Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. It seemed like actually to me, it did seem like Ben was trying.
It did
Because his
a
were
little bit.
getting really close. And I'm like, if you're really trying to throw the challenge, why are you getting so close? But AJ was completely missing, like going way on the other side. Like they kept telling him, they're like, AJ, go to the left. Like, obviously, you don't have to tell him that, but he kept missing to the right. So if Ben was throwing it, which I'm not sure, he
Mm,
definitely was doing a better job of keeping it secretive. Maybe
yeah.
he's just that good that he can throw it and make it look like he's trying.
I mean, I will say that specifically, and I share this with Lana, I was really annoyed that both players were seemingly trying to throw after both of them realized, oh, we're both trying to throw. Because what I don't want to see from a Survivor game is essentially one person on each tribe basically deciding each round who's going to tribal, basically being like, and we're good to like let y'all go for it. That isn't fun gameplay in my mind. What that does is basically say, I can do whatever I want. I'm good. I can survive. And granted, we do see at least some decent plans of like punishing throwing in this entire episode, but still it is very annoying. And I am very, very happy to say that JLP looked up at the both of them and said, you know, we don't have to like do this. We can just send y'all both to tribal. We don't have to set up another challenge. If y'all just want to expedite this, we can expedite this. Like, it's not an issue. In fact, you're saving us filming days. Like, we can do what we want. We can have a 2-day break in Fiji.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Samoa.
I don't buy that. That was a bluff. Because they're guaranteed for 24 episodes, and they're already down one more person than they should be at this point because of what happened to our lovely Zen. So there's no way that we were going to have a double tribal council. But I appreciate him trying to encourage them to stop throwing it. For me, I understand why, as a viewer, it's annoying to see two tribes trying to throw. But I do think, especially from Ben's perspective, I think this was the best strategy. Like, if you are wanting to keep your allies safe on the other tribe, like, why not throw it? Like, that's the best strategy for him. I think it's a little more complicated for AJ because, sure, he would be protecting some of his allies, but he's already burnt those bridges by making it so obvious to them that they're expendable. And you don't really know if these allies that you have on the new tribe, if they're going to stick with you or not. So it's a little more complicated for AJ, but yeah.
After a while, literally the two of them talk and go, are you throwing? Okay, then I'm gonna throw. I don't know anymore. And after a while, Ben just kind of goes, screw it. Tosses it right in, and it goes right in, and we're done. We're done with this challenge. And Brains win immunity. And JLP rightly interrogates AJ and Ben on the mat and goes, you both were throwing. Like, we're not going to pretend like we didn't see that. You both are actively throwing. And AJ claims it was in the spur of the moment. It was just what he was thinking. And Noonan rightfully calls him out on it. Like, no, let's be real. You always have 30 different plans going. This was intentional from the start. Mm-hmm. You decided to jump into this position. Like, we're not dumb. And I don't blame Noonan because she gets a foot injury during this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, AJ can do whatever he wants, and like, but when the rest of your tribe is actively trying and you're basically setting yourself up to let everyone else expend a bunch of energy, and then you can just say, well, that was a fun time. We're going back to tribal alone. That is the part that screws me. It's not a majority. It is one person going, we're going back.
Mm-hmm. And AJ tries to put some of the heat on Ben as well, by pointing out that he also threw the challenge, but Ben just straight up denies it. He's like, no, I wasn't throwing. Which I can't blame him. Like, because I think you're just going to piss off people on your tribe. And why bother pissing off anybody when you don't have to? The fact that AJ was so willing to like admit that he was throwing the challenge really came back to bite him, and a lot of people were pretty pissed about it. Did you also notice at one point when they were throwing it, it started playing like Rockabye Baby in the
Yes.
background? I was like, this is wild.
It did feel like the editors were like slightly trolling of like, this is the show we have, people. This is the season we filmed. But at least we get a pretty decent scramble and mess because of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brains, we had a great episode with you. We don't care about you for the rest of it. Have a great night. Brawn, Noonan walks back into camp. And when I say walk, I really do mean hobbled back into camp with a really hurt foot. And she is immediately pissed because she knows she's a good name tonight. Like, the hostage strategy this whole time has been to basically pin out herself, Polly, and Kristen. And now, because of her injured foot, because she tried to win a challenge that AJ was throwing anyway, she isn't able to scramble like everyone else.
Mm-hmm. It's funny though, because like speaking of the injury, I'm surprised that we never really saw that come into play when they were talking about who to vote out. I bet it was a big talking point, but they just didn't include it into the edit because then it might make it seem a little bit more obvious. Because I'm just going to get this out of the way. I do think the correct decision for most of the people on this tribe was to vote out Noonan. There's a lot of complications to it, but I think especially for all and I'm saying every single one of the original brains, yes, Logan included, the best decision was to vote out Noonan. It's not what I wanted. It's definitely not what I wanted. But yeah, we can get into everything that goes on with the scramble.
Yeah. I do think that the best option, especially because they didn't know Polly had an idol, no one knew,
right,
was to just get Noonan out. And that way, maybe the next challenge they can ignore AJ's mess and just play anyway.
Yeah. You don't want to risk going to a 3-3 split on this tribe that's already not as well equipped as the other tribe. And you know that there is an idol, an open idol with the Kristen has. Like that's my whole reason why I don't think it would have been smart for them to vote out AJ, even though he is a liability. Vote out one of them, then take out AJ next time.
Yes.
Keep one more over the other tribe's numbers.
We do get everyone kind of collecting, and Noonan very casually ripping into AJ of, you did all this. You're not some smart guy. Like, this is not smart. In fact, you just threw out Logan's name to me and Polly very closely. Like, you have actively tried to sabotage the only people, even though you're in a majority, you still are trying to sabotage said majority. And Logan is reasonably pissed.
Yep, she is. And quickly, Logan, Karen, and Kaylin all go off, and Logan is like, this guy, I knew it. He's always been the same person. And she's wanting to target him. But Kaylin is being logical about it. He's trying to defend AJ. He's like, wait, we don't know that that's true. But
give it a moment.
I thought it was really cute. He was like, I've been the golden retriever, but now I'm having to herd the sheep, so I'm now a sheepdog. I'm not a golden retriever anymore. I'm trying to keep all of the old brains in line.
And I mean, this is so smart because I'm sure that Caitlin is over AJ. But I think even as you said it, like, Kaylin realizes, look, we can do this next round. Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this next round. We just need to keep the numbers. But I can't say that out loud because then you'll know that I'm smart. So let me just back into dumb mode. Let me be dumb and be a man's man and just try to stick with the plan.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to downplay his intelligence. I got annoyed though because the other tribe kind of clocked it. They're like, maybe he's smarter than he seems. So, yeah, it's definitely coming that way. And then we get an explanation from AJ about the hostage situation and how it didn't go the way he was hoping it would. His plan was that the hostage situation would encourage that tribe to lose. The new Brain tribe would lose, but then the old Brains would manage to get a crack and take out one of the Brawn. Smart on paper. But the problem is when you tell the other tribe, we're throwing this to protect these people. What does that do? That says, I'm working with these people. The old Brain tribe, we're still a thing. We're still a thing. So what motive does that give old Brawn to have any cracks? No, none. That unites them even more. Okay, we're still doing Brain versus Brawn. Then us five, we're together. So I think that's where AJ was incredibly short-sighted with this plan. Incredibly.
Yeah. If he didn't go Dora the Explorer mode, he would have been absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, he's very much solidified it. And honestly, he's almost 100% solidified his downfall in this game. True. Like there's almost no way that he makes it past early merge if he doesn't get blindsided considerably earlier.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough, but he does manage to pull in the numbers he needs at the water well. They're all talking. It's all four of the old Brains plus Kristen, and they're talking about, okay, we're going to work together and we're going to get out Polly. They come up with a vote split and how they're going to make it work. And right as they're doing that, Polly walks up on them. And they're like, yeah, we're just thinking about it. And I think, I can't remember who it was. Maybe Kristen said, yeah, if you're not hearing about the plan, then you're probably the plan. So they talk about voting out Noonan as a group, the six of them. But Polly's like, well, what about the vote split? And they're basically like, well, could be you if you're cool with that. And he's like, well, I'm never cool with that. And this was maybe my favorite part of the episode was when AJ's like, okay, so it's going to be you, Noonan, you, Polly. And then Kaylin's like, wait, no, it's the other way around. You said earlier it's us four on Polly. And I'm like, okay, this is where Kaylin, I'm like, are you playing dumb or was this just a dumb slip?
I think it was a catch of like, okay, wait, before Polly can even process what was just said, let me make sure that it looks like it was just like a misspeak. But Polly very quickly caught on and was like, wait, no, I'm the majority vote in that
no,
case.
No, for me.
What are you talking about? And AJ just full on Freudian slipped. And it is...
That was Kaylin who did that.
AJ specifically said was it not?
It was Kaylin because AJ was giving a fake split, and then Kaylin was bringing up the one that they had just discussed before Polly was there, which that one did have the majority on Polly. And he's like, no, it was supposed to be us on Polly, the four of us. I'm like, Kaylin, like four on one person is absolutely the majority in a 7-person tribe. So, yeah, Kaylin let it slip that the original plan was Polly.
And Polly very much notes this in the back of his mind and goes, yeah, no, I'll definitely stick with y'all. Don't worry. I'll agree to this like horrible split for me. It's okay. We'll make it work. We have Noonan then off to the side going, this foot injury has basically stopped me playing the game at the moment. and running off to all these scrambles. So let me just pull in the people that are close to me and make up a couple little fibs on when things were said and how they were said in order to convince Logan and Karin to come with me. And while Noonan, Polly, Logan, Karin are right around camp, basically Noonan just lays it out. Hey, we are going to come together as a group. Logan, your name was said by AJ. Regardless of what you've heard, your name was said by AJ to me minutes ago to blindside you. And Polly just nods his head and is like, yeah, no, that is literally what just happened. Which is so good. They're just they are working in lockstep because I mean, Polly doesn't want to lose Noonan. Polly has shown that he's willing to get rid of Noonan, but only if that's the only option forward.
Right. Yeah. I forget who he was talking to. He's like, you can trade one snake in AJ for 2 lions, me and Kristen.
While Noonan is gone, it's like, oh, wow. Oh my God. But well, it is so good to see that. I mean, even as Noonan and Polly can very much see the writing on the wall, they're still going, no, let's play the game. Let's try and do something here. Target the weak spot in Brawn because Brawn has 1,000 weak spots. Let's just hit one. And I mean, unfortunately, the brains come back together at basically the last moment and go, we're still good on Polly, right? Like we're throwing every other conversation out. We're just going to do Polly. There's no need to split or anything. Target him. He goes home. We have a good night. And then we go to Tribal. Which, I mean, brains are just doing the best thing with their information. Basically, everyone has played this scramble, right? So,
yeah, we hear once again AJ's logic behind the whole hostage situation, and I'm like, this is just you really stuffed it, as they say in Australia. And then as a result, Polly was like, well, he doesn't like that people are jeopardizing their integrity to win. And then I just gave the biggest eye roll. And I'm like, Polly, I really hope this was just you kind of using integrity as a manipulation tactic and you don't really believe what you're saying, because if so, then you're lame. You're lame if integrity is really that fundamental to how Survivor should be played. That's boring. I wouldn't have expected.
I think it was an extra knife stab. Like, honestly, it was I think it was both a jab at like, AJ, you're an asshole for doing this, but also another way to just like remind them of what was said about them reportedly. Just remember, you can't trust him. You just really can't trust him.
We do get an emotional moment between Polly and Noonan. Like, they both seem kind of tearful, talking about like valuing each other, but having to do what they have to do to stay in the game, because really they're the most important person in the game. They have to think about themselves first before they can think of each other.
And then, I mean, that's kind of it. Like, after that, we go to vote. And I kind of loved how this, at least to me, it wasn't the clearest, because I wasn't actually sure if the last minute pitch from Polly Noonan worked. I was like 90% sure it didn't work and the plan was going to go through to blindside Polly. But if Polly uses his idol,
Right. Which obviously he was going to do, right?
he knew he was the primary name.
Yeah.
It was basically told to him accidentally. Like, he's going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
And it makes sense. Like, if you're going to play an idol for yourself, it makes sense that you have freedom to vote for whoever you want to vote for. You don't have to worry about taking out somebody that's in a vote split with you just for self-preservation. You don't have to do that. If you're going to play an idol, you don't have to worry about that. So I really was not sure who would be going home, keeping in mind that Polly's probably going to play that idol.
And in fact, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Polly stands up, says, JLP, I'm not going to be going home tonight. Looks at Noonan kind of like I'm sorry that I can't also save you, but I do have to just go to me first, and plays it for himself.
And AJ, meanwhile, is like, wait, who did you all vote for? And everybody's like, Polly. It's like, I voted for Polly.
Just like a moment of like, shit. And I know he was actively pitching to get me out here. Fine. And AJ literally stops JLP from reading the votes. He's 2 seconds away from essentially opening the urn and says, JLP, I'm just going to play an idol for myself tonight. And every single brain looks at him and goes, you have an idol?
And Noonan's like, I don't think you need to play that. I don't think you need to play that. I don't think you have any votes. Like, why would he believe you, of all people? Like, that would make me want to play it even more. If Noonan is encouraging me not to play it, like, what motivation does she have to encourage me not to play it?
I think at this point, Noonan probably knew it was her or AJ. Mm-hmm. And if she can spite AJ in the worst way possible, going down by, I mean, he's basically pulled out a package. Yep. So everyone now knows AJ has an idol.
The funny thing is she would have actually just really helped out his game if he had listened to her and didn't play.
It probably would have, but yeah, AJ just decides, hey, I'm going to be individualistic for a second. I'm going to play this idol for myself. And all of the brains look at him like, when were you going to tell us this? Like, we've been very open to you. Why haven't you, like, you've been so brain strong, right? Like, what's the deal now? And AJ just kind of sits down and is like, it's a hidden immunity idol.
Yeah, I think they just wanted an excuse to dislike somebody they already dislike.
It very much did feel like the final straw, but it was also nice seeing like AJ essentially burn his trump card. And I do say burn because we get 4 votes Polly. Polly correctly played his idol. He's good. We get 1 vote AJ. A vote for Noonan. And then a second vote for Noonan. And that's everything in the urn. So unfortunately, that is the end of Noonan's game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so not to completely disregard Noonan for a second here, but Noonan basically forced AJ to not only, like, basically made AJ's allies look at him like, we don't trust you, and then gave them another reason not to trust him. Just kind of like maybe egging on accidentally playing the idol incorrectly, so he doesn't even have the safety net anymore. And now the entirety of the brains is pissed at him. Specifically Karin. Karin is like, you were never going to tell us this, were you? This was always going to be your back idol, the idol in your pocket, so you could jump over and go do whatever you needed to. But
so much for the graduates.
So much for the graduates. I mean, I think the graduates graduated, and then AJ went back into primary school. So I think he lost that privilege pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I really enjoyed Noonan on this cast.
Me too. I didn't think she would go this early, honestly.
She really read to me as someone who would go deep into the game. She had a really good story of like, hey, I'm kind of the only person in my family who hasn't done anything major yet, and like this is my chance to do that. And I honestly think her vote out here is going to haunt AJ till he goes out of the game. Like AJ is in trouble for the rest of this game because of Noonan's actions this round. And honestly, that is a win for Noonan.
Very true. Yeah. And hopefully that helps out Paulie. And hopefully they're good.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't vote with her, he could have.
He could have. But I mean, if he did so, then I mean, he was choosing to vote with his lion versus the others.
I guess so. But like taking out the fact that we know and now they know that AJ had the idol. If AJ didn't have that idol, AJ would be gone. And
yes,
if AJ didn't have that idol, with the way Paulie voted, Noonan would be gone still. So it kind of was a mistake when you know you're playing the idol. Why not try to save her?
I can see that. Yeah.
But I am excited for the next episode because it looks like we might get a Coven 2.0.
It looks like we are going to get a coven that works.
I hope
basically, from the previews, the OG brains on Brawn look at AJ and go, so everything Noonan said was right, wasn't it? Like, this was very clearly you proving that everything that she was saying about you being distrustworthy is kind of true. And we're done with you. So you can rot. And then off to the side, the other thing we see is that the 4 women that remain on Brawn are linked up. And they have basically the only idol on that side anymore. So
see, I thought it was the Brains tribe that had the women. Is it both?
Because
it was definitely the
I could
Brains
have
tribe.
sworn, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not.
Yeah.
I can barely see anymore. But yeah, it was the Brains tribe. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Which I'm excited for that. Of course, Laura's there, so she's got to have her coven. But it looks like they're getting their claws into Kate and Morgan. So we'll see what those 4 can do together.
Yeah. I think everyone is now very much looking towards the merge, especially because people know it's probably within 1 to 2 rounds. Like we know. But Logan takes another hit very early on. And I mean, Brooke is flying. The irony of them having 4 of 5 people in their draft having idols just so happened to be that way. And I mean, 2 of them were played correctly. 1 of them is still in the pocket, and 1 of them is AJ's. So we will see where it goes. But
this is like the first time all season that there hasn't been any ties in the rankings among you all, because we have 5, 4, 3, 2. Poor Lana down there with 2, Logan 3, Jack, you have 4, and Brooke has 5 people left.
I will say, based on everything we've seen, Lana, you are probably fine for a good while here. I don't think Kaylin is going anywhere. And Morgan, I feel like she's in deep enough to where she isn't in danger until probably mid-merge. I, on the other hand, depending on how things go next week, either have an amazing setup with Kate and Lauren, or something is about to go very, very wrong. And then, I mean, Brooke, I could see taking the next hit with AJ, but once again, we'll really see what happens because it looks like both sides of the game are getting shaken up next week. Well, tomorrow, even. The beauty of Australian Survivor. But with that, David, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. The season's good. I'm having fun. I don't think it's quite on the level of the last two seasons, but definitely better than the season before those two. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I agree with you that it, in my opinion, I mean, I've primarily watched this past season and this one. They do feel like two very different flavors of the game, where Titans versus Rebels was a lot more smart, calculating gameplay. And this is people consistently blowing up their game. So, really good strategy versus really entertaining mess. And I cannot wait to see what happens going forward. But with that, unfortunately, that is the end of our time tonight. So, if you have been around this long, thank you so much. And if you want to keep hearing our lovely opinions on this season, you can feel free to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell. We are looking towards 1,000 subscribers because the second we hit that, we can bring amazing things to y'all. In addition, if you're on the go and don't want to listen to us on YouTube, there are tons of other places. In fact, anywhere you get audio podcasts, you can find us by looking up the Cup Pod.
Or click the link tree in
the
description.
And if you're looking for any other content, drag-related content, WWE, Eurovision Song Contest, feel free to check out our link tree as well for links to those channels. We also have our Patreon running, which is getting some amazing behind-the-scenes content where you can learn more about the panelists that you're hearing from all over the spectrum of the Cup TV. And feel free to check out our socials. They've been running in the bottom the whole time on both Blue Sky and Twitter. And finally, if you're looking for merch to support us, including our lovely cup mugs, you can feel free to grab them at lanagcreations.etsy.com. But with that, David, it has been lovely chatting with you today. But I think we got to get out of here. So, cheers.
Cheers.